Welcome to The Explainer. So, what really makes a language powerful? Is it that you can say anything you can possibly imagine? Or is it the rock-solid guarantee that everything it says is logically sound? Today, we're going to dive into that delicate dance between expressive power and logical reliability, the two sides of what makes a formal language truly complete.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by asking what completeness even means in this context. Then, we'll jump back in time to look at a huge roadblock in the history of logic, the absolutely brilliant solution that came along, the toughest nails test any formal language has to pass, and finally, how it all fits together. So, let's start at the beginning. When we talk about a language being adequate or complete, what are we actually getting at? It's about a lot more than just having a bunch of grammar rules. You know, this is a question that logicians and philosophers have wrestled with for ages. It's not just about having the most words or the most complex sentences. It's about having the right kind of power. And as it turns out, that power really splits into two very different kinds. Think of it like this. It's a balancing act. On one hand, you've got expressive power. This is the creative, flexible side. Can the language capture all the subtle shades of meaning? Can it say precisely what you mean? But on the other hand, you have technical completeness. This is the rigid, logical side. Are the rules of the system sound? Can you trust that it won't lead you to contradictions? A truly great language needs both. Now, to really get why this balance is so critical, let's look at a major problem that plagued early logic. It was a limitation that seriously held back its expressive power. So, this all started with a really powerful, but, limiting idea from a logician named Gotlib Frege. His principle basically said that the only thing a sentence really means, its bottom line value, is just whether it's true or false. That's it. Everything else is just window dressing. And what this does is it creates this super black and white view of language. I love this analogy. It's like a light switch with no dimmer. A sentence is either on, it's true, or it's off, it's false. All the nuance, all the context, all the different flavors of meaning, poof, gone. And check this out. This is a perfect example of the problem. You know, the morning star and the evening star are actually both names for the planet Venus. So if they're both shining, both statements are true. But they mean totally different things, right? One brings up images of dawn, the other of dusk. Frege's principle just shrugs and says, nope, they're the same. It collapses both of those rich ideas into one single value, the true. So you might be asking, how in the world did logicians get around this? Well, they developed a whole new way of thinking called non-Fregean logic, and it was designed to do one thing: bring meaning back into the equation. It was basically a brilliant three-step move. First, they just tossed Frege's principle right out the window. Second, they brought in this new idea called semantic correlates to represent what a sentence actually means. And finally, they built a new logical tool to let them work with those meanings. And these semantic correlates, they are the solution. They're the dimmer on that light switch we were talking about. They let each sentence have its own unique meaning, its own texture, completely separate from just being plain old true or false. And I'm not kidding, this was an absolute game changer. All of a sudden, formal languages could paint a much more detailed picture of the world. Logicians could finally dig into a sentence's meaning, not just its truth value. And this idea was so powerful, it actually helped bring all these different kinds of logic, like modal logic, intuitionistic logic, under one bigger, more expressive roof. But remember, expressive power is only half the battle. To be considered truly complete, a language also has to be reliable. It has to go through a whole battery of tough technical tests to prove that it's logically solid. This really breaks down the two sides of the coin perfectly. You've got conceptual adequacy on one side, which is all about that expressive power. The big question there is, can this language actually say what we want it to say? But then you have technical adequacy, focused on logical soundness. And there the question becomes, are the rules of this game reliable? Are they consistent? Okay, so one of the most important technical tests is something called logical completeness. Now, what does that actually mean? It's a huge guarantee. It means that if a statement is logically true according to the system, you are 100% guaranteed to be able to prove it using the rules of that system. There are no true things that are just floating out there beyond your reach. All right, let's look at a real-world example to see how this plays out. There's this super powerful non-Fregean logic system known as SCIQ, and its expressive power is off the charts. It's so sophisticated, it can handle incredibly complex areas of mathematics like group theory and ring theory, which are all about abstract structures and symmetries. But for all that incredible conceptual power, it has one massive technical flaw. The system is undecidable. And trust me, that is a huge problem. It basically means there's no guaranteed method to figure out if a statement can be proven. It's like having a computer program that you ask a yes or no question, but sometimes instead of answering, it just runs forever. You never know if it's still thinking or if there's no answer to be found. So the system is powerful, for sure, but you can't fully rely on it. All right, so this brings us right back to where we started, this constant tension between being able to say anything you want and being able to trust everything you say. Let's pull it all together and see what a truly adequate language looks like. So, in the end, it really comes down to this. A truly great formal language has to be a master of two trades. It can't just be wildly expressive with shaky rules, and it can't just be logically perfect but unable to describe anything interesting. It has to succeed on both fronts. So you can think of a truly complete language as this perfect blend. It absolutely needs that creative flexibility, that expressive power to capture rich meaning. But all of that has to be built on a rock-solid foundation of logical completeness and structural integrity. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that building a formal language is all about a fundamental trade-off. It's a constant negotiation between the power to express everything and the reliability to prove anything. And often, gaming more of one means giving up a little bit of the other. And that leaves us with a really big question, and I want you to think about this. As we design these complex systems, whether we're talking about logic or computer programming or even AI, what do we value more? Do we want the power to describe the entire messy universe, even if it comes with some uncertainty? Or do we prefer the absolute guarantee of perfect reliability, even if it means some things are simply beyond our ability to talk about? The answer isn't simple, and it's going to shape everything we build next.